So luckily, at least if freaking Peter Ducey's not there, you got her stepping up with this whole thing. And if you recall, Karine Jean-Pierre literally just said that the people who are likely to struggle probably had been struggling prior to the pandemic because they were in a different bracket and had benefited from the pause. But she made no move to address how skyrocketing inflation and gas prices might impact their ability to pick up their payments where they had left off after 2 years. She also concluded by claiming, without offering any evidence of how the administration intended to implement reforms, that the plan had been undertaken in part to reform the system to help the first responders who had suffered so much over the last 2 years. So she just says a bunch of stuff, doesn't explain how they're going to do any of it, and then she has to move on. Very similar to how Peter Ducey just the other day, and we covered it here, going, who is going to pay for it? One question. Who is going to pay for it? 7 words. She couldn't do it. She couldn't answer it. She doesn't know. The press keep following up. Well, who's going to pay for it? How does this not increase inflation? No answers. Well, I told you, Peter, we decreased the deficit by $1.7 trillion. Doesn't answer how to do it. Typical. Well, check this out, folks. In the long run, there's an analysis here that shows how quickly basically student debt is going to come back. Okay, and it's going to come back fast. The White House cannot say how much President Joe Biden's student loan debt forgiveness plan will cost taxpayers or how it will be financed. No clue. But remember, they're being smart about this. They've really thought about it, except how much is it really going to cost, which is the most important part other than the fact of who it's going to. This is how government runs. We'll implement it. We'll figure out the costs later after it's already been implemented. Who the hell handles their finances that way on an individual basis? What are the details of all this? The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget published analysis on Wednesday showing how Biden's plan will cost taxpayers at least $500 billion over the next 10 years. Mind you, we're $20+ trillion in debt, folks. First, canceling $10,000 of student loan debt per borrower who earns less than $125,000 annually, and $20,000 for recipients of Pell Grants will cost an estimated $360 billion. This comes from the Penn Wharton budget model. Quote, it will cancel about $525 billion of student debt. The cost of this cancellation is lower than the amount of debt itself because of the sum of that debt was already projected to be forgiven through other forgiveness programs or not paid back in full. Second, the new income-driven repayment plan, which significantly earns and eases the financial burden of borrowers in the Biden's action, will cost an estimated $120 billion. However, analysts caution this figure may not tell the entire story because the White House has not yet said who will be eligible. So they're just kind of shooting darts going, well, we think this is going to be the bottom number, how much it might cost. Do you think it's going to be more than that, folks? I think so. Third, extending the payment moratorium another 4 months will cost taxpayers another $20 billion. It's not like we're talking 20,000. It's not like we're talking 20 million. We're literally talking billions of dollars as if it's nothing. Like we just throw that word around like, billion, not a big deal. Oh, trillion? Who cares? People didn't refer to even trillions of dollars back in the 90s. If you were a millionaire, if you had $1 million, remember Richard from Survivor won $1 million? You could survive on that your entire life back when Survivor started in the 90s. Now we're talking like trillions of dollars here. And everyone's like, whatever. It's $1 trillion. Who cares? Well, how is this all going to be financed? The White House said Thursday it believes the plan will fully be paid for, but has not said how because they don't know. They're just saying that. That's typical of them just to lie straight to your face. Importantly, Congress has not passed a law allocating money for the plan. Thus, it remains unclear how the plan will be financed. Where's the money coming from, Jen? Where's the money coming from, Joe? Where's the money coming from, Karine? Nobody can answer questions. Absent of congressional action, Biden is only, in other words, a top Obama administration advisor, Jason Furman, poorly roughly $500 billion of gasoline on the inflationary fire that is already burning is reckless. Extremely reckless. You have inflation up. You have gas prices up. I mean, now you plan on doing this where we're still trying to recover from the deficit that you put us in the first place, causing inflation of handing out, again, COVID-19 freaking checks like they're hotcakes. And now you're going to say, well, this doesn't increase inflation by basically paying off people's debt. So there's more money in circulation because people's debt were paid off. In a nutshell, handed them $10,000 to $20,000. So luckily you had Peter here, not Peter Ducey, another Peter reporter, basically questioning her on this regarding, well, the debt's just going to accumulate just back up in 5 years. So what's going to happen then? Let's check out what she has to say.
If I could ask you, just following up, I have some follow-ups on one quick one on that. We heard from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget today. You guys can't estimate what it'll cost. You want to see how many people take you up on it. But they estimate cancellation will eliminate about $550 billion in federal student loan debt. They say, however, we project that the overall amount of outstanding federal student loan debt will return to $1.6 trillion, its current level, within 5 years. So is the president committed to doing this again, or is this just a one-time deal?
You're asking me about a hypothetical that I don't.
Well, I guess I'm asking. Let's not be so.
I love how she goes, you're asking me about a hypothetical. Your whole plan is hypothetical. Like literally the plan itself, you don't even know how it's going to be paid for. Thus, I mean, literally to implement the plan would have to thus be hypothetical because you don't know where the money's going to come from. So how are you going to implement it if you have no money? They don't even know how they're going to implement it. I mean, some of the categories, they don't even know who's fully eligible for this stuff.
Specific at that, hypothetical. They say, this nonpartisan organization says, it's just going to go back up again. So is the president okay with this just being like a temporary relief thing and then it's okay and taxpayers will
I mean,
pay
it is a little bit of a hypothetical. You started off asking me the question that we don't know what the number is, which we don't. We have to see what in order to for me to fully answer that question.
Does the White House believe that it will not go up again, that the federal student loan debt will not go up again, and that the ideas that the ambassador yesterday presented will stop the rising cost of college and that debt will not continue to rise?
So look, when we talk about the rising cost of college, and I know this question, and you're talking about tuition. So look, we have taken steps on colleges raising tuition. This is something that the Department of Education, Secretary Cardona, it takes very seriously. He's been closely watching, and he's going to hold colleges accountable for raising costs without delivering additional value. So a couple of things those measures that we have taken, because I think this is important as you're asking me this question for Americans to hear. We reinstated an enforcement office at the Department of Education. We terminated a college accreditor that had previously followed colleges and that defrauded borrowers to get access to federal student loans, and we're rolling out new resources to help students make more informed decision on which schools will better deliver. So these are steps that he is taking. We will monitor, we will crack down on anybody who is acting in this way, that is defrauding students. That is something that you heard from Ambassador Rice herself. And then we have taken other steps, right? We have taken other steps through the American Rescue Plan to provide $40 billion for colleges and universities to support students, particularly at community colleges and minority institutions. And
she's literally talking about how colleges and universities are being subsidized. If anybody knows how subsidies work, if you're subsidizing something, usually the trend of that thing that you're subsidizing, the price goes up for that thing that you're subsidizing, especially in the universities and colleges. I mean, they've been subsidized on a federal level for quite some time, even on sometimes a state level. So if you're being subsidized, you're getting money in, you can increase your prices of tuition because thus you're getting that money in, which also causes inflation, which also causes increased demand in some areas. And it also causes an increased demand of people taking out loans to pay for the very thing that you're trying to subsidize, of which other people are having to pay more because you're subsidizing it. So somehow they're saying they're reforming this thing, but they're not reforming anything. They're just looking at those creditors that are going after and targeting people, sure. But then at the same time, she's not actually talking about the universities that are basically promising people jobs in a nutshell when they're doing lesbian dance theory or underwater finger painting or whatever it may be that you're not going to get a job for, and promising them 6 figures, and they come out of school going, oh, I'm getting paid $10 an hour to freaking sell Cheez-Its on the side of the street or whatever the hell it might be. You're not getting a freaking job for lesbian dance theory or freaking diversity, inclusion, and equity, whatever the hell it may be. So why not have the universities pay for all this? Why are we paying for this as a taxpayer? It still doesn't make any sense to me. It's so baffling. So if whoever you're trying to blame here, have them pay for it. But the people that you're freaking having paying for it are the ones that you're not blaming. Because we didn't do anything. You can't put the blame on me. You can't put the blame on all of you. So if she's going to put the blame on whatever's going on, these creditors or these freaking universities, have them pay for it.
Another thing that we've done is ask for Pell Grants to be doubled and a lot more. So we're going to try to do our best to keep those costs lower as we talk about tuition. But if we're going to do more, and we just have to see what that number looks like.
By the way, just to always going back to the original question, because like we've seen so many times, she doesn't answer any of the questions. The question was basically, is he going to have to do this again, because if the debt's going to just come back in 5 years, are we just having this be a temporary debt relief, or does he plan on doing this again in maybe another 5 years if he gets reelected? Doesn't answer the question. Just dodges it. I mean, she answered a portion of his question, right? With the whole reform thing with the college and universities. But the main one was, this is going to come back. They're saying 5 years, nonpartisan groups saying so. What's your answer on that? Nothing.
Just litigate that. Let me move on to the topic I wanted to ask you about, which is the event that's taking place tonight. I know there's only so much you can say as it relates to politics.
All right, so he just goes on this whole event thing. But that was the main point there of, how are you going to pay for it? It's coming back again. Should we just expect to see this again? In a nutshell, he was reiterating the whole behavioral economics, behavioral finance portion that I've been reiterating since freaking we've been doing the show here on Joe Biden promising this during the campaign of, you're not changing anything. People are going to still take out loans to go to college because it's so expensive. So what are you going to do every time things get out of control again of people making a personalized decision? Nobody's forcing them. They're making a personal decision, take out that loan, that we're supposed to just foot the bill every single time. This doesn't make any sense, you guys. Not at all. Oh, well, people are struggling. People need relief. Blah, blah, blah. We understand that. That's why there's charitable stuff going on. That's why people can go get another job like I did, work 3 jobs, sacrifice like other people have been doing since they went to college. But no, they're going to sit there and foot the bill for other people. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.